Hey, it's Nicole Tompkins. I play Jill Valentine in the new Resident Evil 3 remake, and you're listening to the Residents of Evil podcast.
Hey, welcome everybody to the show. Our guest today is Nicole Tompkins. She plays Jill Valentine in the Resident Evil 3 remake. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me.
This is awesome. I'm so glad to have you on here. The game's amazing. But before we get into it, let's find out a little bit more about yourself. For people who are not familiar with you, this might be their first time coming across you. Can you just kind of introduce yourself, maybe a little bit about your work and some little information about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an actress and voice actress. I live in Los Angeles, and I have a deep love for the video game industry and have been very blessed to get to work on some pretty cool games. You've seen me as Idril in Middle-earth: Shadow of War, as well as Jill Valentine in the new RE3 remake. Other than that, I'm in scattered TV shows, and I have a few feature films that you can check out on streaming services.
Yeah, so you've got a pretty good list of things going. It's a really good variety. I like that you're,
I keep busy.
I like that you're dipping your toes everywhere, just kind of getting your experience in.
You got to do it, man. And I mean, it's the passion, right? It's what we love doing. It's telling stories and in any way we can.
Yeah, definitely. Also with us is co-host Tony. Tony, say hi.
Oh, glad you remember me. Thank you. I'm glad you remembered me. All right.
Yeah, I kind of forgot you were there for a second. No, I was coming back to you. Well, I guess let's jump into this. The first thing I want to know is, how did you get this part?
Well, I went through a pretty rigorous audition process. As you can imagine, they were pretty excited to make sure they found exactly what they wanted to bring this iteration of such an iconic character back to life in 2020. So I auditioned for it, and thankfully I really hit it off with the creative team super early on. Our cinematics director, Steve Knebly, and I just really had kind of a shared vision for what Jill was going to look like. And I think we just worked together really well. And my gosh, it's so cool to get to work with an entire team, both on animation side and game development side and cinematic side, that is just passionate about what they're doing across the board. Imagine like going to work and everyone is excited to be there.
Yeah, I know. It seems that from RE2 remake to RE3 remake, that the general consensus throughout the development teams is there's a lot of passion. They want to do this the right way for the fans.
They do. They really care about the fans, and they are fans themselves. Like, everyone involved has loved this series for as long as it's existed in all of its iterations. So they want to do it justice, and they work really hard to bring together these badass games that we're having a blast playing.
Yeah, it's fun. I think Tony and JJ both agree, as well as a good portion of the audience. I think everybody agrees that the game itself is a lot of fun.
I'm so glad. I couldn't be happier. I definitely had a blast, but I might be a little biased.
Just a little, maybe. So it sounds like you played it. Were you familiar with the Resident Evil 3 or Resident Evil in general before you took on the character in the game?
I was familiar with the franchise. I mean, how could you not be? I feel like it's super well known, whether you're in gamer world or just movies and whatnot. People have heard of Resident Evil, so I was familiar with the franchise for sure. And when I got the call, I definitely wanted to do service to the past iterations of Jill, and so I watched some of the past performances. To figure out how to pay respect to what fans expect, and also bring my own version, my own iteration, my own self to Jill in 2020. And thankfully Capcom and the creative team had a really strong vision as well for what that was going to look like.
It's interesting to look at talking about this new generation of characters we already know from the past that have been with us for a long time. And I like that we are going back and with Resident Evil 2 remake, that was the first introduction of those two characters again, so it was kind of like a restart for them, so they were allowed to take a lot of liberties, but still try and keep it original. Now, Jill, we've already seen in a remake. She's already done Remake 1. But bring it back to Remake 3. Now you're taking on the character. What kind of extra stuff did you add in to make her your own?
I think, when I approached Jill, I really approached it from an actor's perspective, right? The game itself is super cinematic. We're basically jumping into how do we make this as natural as possible. Thankfully, like, I'm given an amazing backstory for who she is, but really, when you jump into these crazy situations, it's, she's a professional. She's super trained. She's an absolute badass, but she's also one of the youngest STARS members, and a woman who gets hurt and gets thrown around a lot.
She does. She really does.
My gosh, like that freaking hurts. And this guy just keeps coming after her, man. So, I think we approached it really just scene by scene, and I just came in there with what, I don't know, what was on the page and what felt right in the moment. I think something that we definitely got to play with and elevate the material that they'd written was kind of adding some of her humor, some of her wit, and like her banter with Carlos back there. I felt that was really important and pretty fun, because it adds levity to a pretty intense situation.
Yeah, with how intense and fast this game is, and the length of it has been some contention with the fans. It's not too long, but I feel like we get just a wide range of Jill emotions, from getting beat up to angry to her playful and sarcasm to eventually, coming around to a little bit of emotional and attachment to Carlos and an appreciation for him. And it feels like you guys just did a phenomenal job of really fleshing her out for people who don't know who she is throughout a whole game.
Thank you. I mean, she goes through a lot in a short period of time, so it wasn't too hard to kind of go on her emotional journey, because when you're faced with such overwhelming circumstances, I think it just gives a lot of opportunity for, the worst and the best in people to kind of come out. And thankfully she's such a hero in so many ways. She just keeps getting back up, and she's so passionate and so selfless in so many ways that she's just on a mission in a less than pleasant circumstance.
And she never hesitates either. She never hesitates.
That was like the thing about Jill. Like this is something that a lot of people haven't talked about, at least that I've heard or seen, but like, she's still suffering from the mansion incident, and like the whole like not sleeping, taking medication and everything, and obviously being under surveillance from Umbrella. Like, you can see her mindset in the apartment with everything she's putting together and how she acts in the game. And that was something that I thought was really neat that they carried over. And obviously you did very well yourself in portraying that.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, she's worn out. She's been through a lot before the game even starts, and then you see what she goes through. So I think any humor that she holds is kind of just that relentless final attempt to be like, well, this is life. Here we go.
I'm glad they actually brought that element of like PTSD into it, because it's something I felt is missing throughout the characters throughout the series. Is there's never any reflection on the things that they've been through. So in this situation, we're seeing that she's still suffering from what happened just a few months before the city went down. And,
they added the trauma. They added a lot of depth in general, I think, in this game, just with the characters and how they relate to each other. And I think that naturalism was something that was really important, because we can all connect to it. It makes her relatable in so many ways. Like, she never stops being a badass, but also we know like what she's going through, and when she loses civilians, spoiler, and goes through these circumstances, like, it hurts, and it still matters as much, as tough as she is and as trained as she is.
Did you get any kind of direction from the directors or from development team or anything, as far as when you guys are improvising some of those lines, or if they reached a point in the recording process, they're like, let's do this with her instead of what we were doing, or let's take it this way?
Oh, that's fun. It was definitely a collaborative process. So we were able to like recommend ideas or throw stuff there, but Capcom also had such a strong script to start and such a great fleshed out vision for like what she was going to look like. So it was a lot of discussion. So if something was like, well, what if we tried this or threw that there? They were always super receptive. We talked about it, and then we would add fun stuff. I think one of my favorite examples of that is actually in one of the main trailers, is when Carlos hands Jill the radio and is like, hey, we can use this to talk to each other. Originally, she just kind of leaves. She just takes it. And I just remember we were on the mocap stage, just like, I'm sorry, Jeff, who plays Carlos, Jeff Shine.
Yeah, Jeff.
Guy, did you just mansplain what a radio is?
I know. I would have loved if she said that in the middle of it, but...
So we asked, we're like, can she just be like, I know what a radio is. And sure enough, it worked. They kept it. They loved it. And I think there's more of those quips throughout that are just really kind of playful and fun and give her a chance to be like, yeah, well, I'm the pro here.
I was thinking about that too when I was playing the game. I was like, I love every character. I think all of you were amazing. You did a great job acting as each character, and I hope to see you back in future entries if your character's still around. Which we know we know Jill is, but other characters like Carlos have disappeared from the series since his entry, and Nikolai is kind of up in the air at the end of that game. But one of the things I kind of laughed about was Carlos really did feel like he was kind of mansplaining things to her, and he was being very. And he has nothing against him or the character. I think I kind of liked it because it was endearing to him. Like, he's romantic, but he's kind of ignorant to it at the same time. Meanwhile, Jill's on the other side being like, listen, don't treat me like I'm a child, okay? I don't want to do it. She fires back at him with no hesitation of her little snarkiness. I loved it.
Totally. It makes their dynamic just super fun. And Jeff does such a great job of like making those lines super endearing. Because if you see some of them on a page, you're like, oh my God, this guy. But he just delivers it with such warmth and authenticity. And Jeff in general just has a wicked sense of humor. And I just think that really like plays through in the fact that he's totally just like, jumping on her nerves as a means to bring himself a little bit of joy. A dark world. And for sure, Jill just knows how to roll with the punches and be like, yo, check him, put him in place. And then also kind of like play back once she gets his flavor.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like his take on the character. It was really good. I liked you guys. Your dynamic was just perfect. You guys really played off each other well. Did you have any other roles that maybe have helped you in this one?
Oh, good question. I feel like I pretty well approach each role differently because everyone's circumstances are so different, and how could you compare what Jill is going through? But I definitely could say I've just had experiences with really strong, amazing women that are in tough situations, just, steamrolling through, that I could confidently say I drew on as far as her strength, her resilience, and her passion and also her pain. My God, she goes through so much pain throughout this game. A few bruises are had.
I just got to be some broken bones in there. From the start, she gets kicked halfway across the room. I was like, how is she running right now?
She has bones of steel.
Apparently. She's fearless. I love it. She's awesome. She's
literally like the female John McClane when you really think about it, with every like getting blown off of rooftops and landing on like window washer things and such. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. She goes full Die Hard. Yeah. So, I mean, you really liked taking on this character. Do you have like a new appreciation for her after performing as her?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, you can't not develop a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation for everything that she goes through. I got to do all of her performance capture and motion capture and facial capture. So we were in there, every day doing these full performances and working against other actors. So it really just like gave me a chance to just jump in fully and play around in Raccoon City.
I like, we've been interviewing the actors for a few years, and it seems like they have a good system of, since they've brought on this new RE engine that they record and do all their gameplay with, and the studios they work with to do the motion cap, they're going for a real good sense of realism. And I like that we've progressed now to where the actors, you guys are in the studio, you're not in front of an audience, you're not going up on a theater screen, but you're performing with each other in a gray void with nothing really to look at than the person next to you. So it really gives you a chance to flex your acting muscles, and that's got to be a really big challenge,
Yeah, it's super fun. I mean, if you talk to actors that are in video games, we're used to the motion capture stages, and it's a very specific style of performance in some ways, because absolutely it's not a green screen, but it's close. There's nothing there, and we're in these ridiculous ball suits. We look fabulous and also crazy.
I saw the picture you posted. It was awesome. You and the team.
Thank you. Yeah, we're running around in Velcro and making it happen. So yeah, the opportunity that it provides to really go full out and to be there with each other, and also, give all of our emotions and our physicality to the character. It matters. It really brings a level of realism and connectivity to the vocal performance. So many of those performances happened live and are in the final version.
What's your thoughts? Because you've done some stage work as well, right?
I have, yeah.
So your comparison between doing film and TV, stage, and game, which one is it closer to? Is the game closer to stage or closer to film?
I love that you asked me this question, because it's actually a conversation I think a lot of actors have when we get to the mocap stage. We love to discuss how basically working on a mocap stage is like having your heart in theater and your soul in cinema. So it is like such a marriage between cinematic performances and then also theater, because oftentimes you're doing full takes, you're doing full scenes all the way through from beginning to end. And you're not having to restart and do it again like you would in film for a different angle, because it's capturing everything from all angles all at once. So from that perspective, it's very theatrical. How you move matters, your ability to be in your body matters, and then also just vocal performance merits kind of a nod to theater, because it is a vocally challenging and versatile kind of performance. And then as far as film, like, it's got such a cinematic perspective, because once you get all of the technology in there and the fact that we're working against, nothing and like see-through props and all these crazy specific items that are used to make this magic happen, we're also often seeing like a live rendering of the characters on a screen, and you'll have the director in there with his, digital camera. I'm gonna slaughter the technical terminology because it's a whole team that makes this thing work, but they can go in there and look at these camera shots in this vacant space, and look at the characters from different angles and the movement. So it really is a marriage between both, and I just gave you way more information than you even wanted, but
no, I love it. I love it.
It's an exciting topic.
I really wish that we could, as a team, or get sent out to one of these studios when they're making a game, because I want to see how it works. I want to see how the characters look on screen while you guys are acting them out in person in these suits. It's just got to be really cool.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Mostly it's us just standing in front of the TV doing YMCA with super intense character models.
I've heard.
Like, we're in there moonwalking. We really use this super expensive technology for good use, good purposes.
Of course.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of those behind the scene videos and stuff, like when they've done that and stuff. And Ruben Langdon's always showed off a lot of stuff when he was doing like Devil May Cry, like way back in the day, and everything like that. It was just the stuff that you guys get to do on that is so fun, and I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, just to see how far it's come too would be cool.
It's such a dream, and exactly what you just said. It's developed so much, and it changes constantly. So even being on a mocap stage 2 years ago, from 4 years ago, from today, like the technology is just constantly innovating and getting better.
Definitely. So I guess back to Jill, since you were cast as her. And you were familiar with the Resident Evil franchise, the whole universe. Were you familiar with Jill herself?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
I'd heard of Jill. I'd seen Jill. I knew Jill, and it takes a quick Google search to get all of Jill's history. She's pretty well known. So I did know her. I was able to kind of, in some ways, be sheltered from this like understanding of how iconic or famous or like the pressures of like fans' opinions of Jill, because I was working within the context of just this team. It's kind of like when you go to make a movie or you go to make a thing, like you really kind of tune out all of the pressure that's built around like expectations about it, because we're just making art. We're just telling stories the best way that we can, and you kind of just throw yourself into that. So I just went back to the basics, regardless of what I may have or not have known about her, and just looked at, her backstory and who she is and how she reacts to the people around her and what she's seeing in this world.
Okay, so you were familiar, but you just kind of took everything within the context of the one game you're making, not worrying about where she fits in the series, you know, all that kind of stuff, but just focus on this one thing in front of us and do it as best as we can.
Yeah, in some ways. There's still, again, like there's respect paid to her role in the bigger context of the franchise. Like I didn't
Right.
just erase that. It's just when you're approaching scene by scene, like you do all that research and then you're just there. You're just reacting to what's in front of you like she would be.
It's one thing I always loved about the original RE games was there was no future. You weren't looking to like, okay, what's coming next? What's the next big set piece, or what's the next big step in the game evolution, the next sequel? These games felt like they were, I mean, this is her case, it's 3 days, 2 days she was awake, you know?
Yeah.
That's it. There's no what's after this. There's no,
It demands
it's
presence.
just, yeah,
man.
it's right there. You
demands
gotta
you to be right there. She is on extroverted sensing overdrive, right? Just
Yeah.
reacting to what's there because that's how you survive. And I mean, that's why we love survival games. It's like demanding everything else disappears. The goal is to survive.
And she really didn't have a chance to dwell on anything. That game moves, like, it is fast. It is, you've got very little time to really do anything outside of Nemesis chasing you and running.
Get on out there, run.
Yeah. So now that you've gone, you've recorded it, and it's been out since Friday. Have you had a chance to play it, or did you play it before? Have you had a chance to get on it since then, or any kind of experience with seeing how it turned out?
Well, I got the game the same day as everyone else. My copy came in the mail. It was very exciting, and we had the digital download as well.
Nice.
So I am taking my time. Full disclosure, I'm a badass as Jill, and then you hand me a remote control, and I'm like, oh my god, I could just stay in this room and not get eaten.
I think I'm good here.
I'm taking my time, but I've enjoyed also watching other people play on streaming sites, and I think you guys as well did a playthrough. The site did. So I watched a lot of that. So I've had a fun watching, you know, people that are really good at video games actually make it through the levels instead of dying every 3 seconds. You know, it's fine. Whatever.
It's got some challenge to it. I felt that this game was the right amount of difficulty for standard version. I haven't got into hardcore yet, but I did feel challenged throughout it. So yeah, it's definitely it's not an easy walkthrough.
It's very impressive to watch the people on hardcore just like
Oh,
mow
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
whoa.
It's a beautiful game too.
And I still, the jump scares still get me. You think I would like know them because I did, I don't know, all of the reactions to them. When I'm still like, oh my god, no, you know, lots of tension before I, you know, head into the next scenario or down the dark hallway.
How does a jump scare work in the void of a motion cap studio? Because like let's take for example, Nemesis busts through quite a few walls in this game.
Oh, does he? No.
how was
you
that?
play drinking game to like the number of walls
true,
that Nemesis busts.
That's true. How was that portrayed in the studio to have him do a jump scare like that? Was there anything that he actually had to bust through, or was it just just your reaction and then they put him in later?
So it's definitely a mixture of, you know, animation taking over and then the cinematics. So the cinematics is mostly what we did and focused on in the motion capture. So Neil Newbon actually did all of, who plays Nikolai, vocal performance, did all of the motion capture stuff for Nemesis.
I did not know that. We were talking to him tomorrow. I'm going to bring that up.
Totally, you should. He's amazing.
I've seen some of his background work, his videos that he did. He's really talented.
Yeah.
Oh, he's an actual badass. Yeah. he's a real life badass and a good friend of mine, and will forever be my enemy in everything. And we wouldn't have it any other way.
I love it.
Yeah, you'll love talking to him. But he did Nemesis stuff, so he definitely did some busting. He did some crazy walking. He did dragging. I got dragged a lot. So we definitely had some mocapped interactions. Of course, it's a lot less scary when you're on a stage doing it. Yeah. Imagine like no sound effects, no creepy music, and just this amazing 6 foot tall plus British man going, Scott. You know? So so it's a lot more fun when you're on the stage. And then when you get in the booth, because we do a ton of, in-game voice work, all of the death sounds and the dying and the screams and the reactions and the commentary about the environments happens in a booth. And so we do lots of the reacting to like really gross monsters that pop out at you from the booth. And that's all just like kind of from your imagination. And when we're working on it, sometimes we have character art and we like know what the monster is. And sometimes we're like going back and forth with Japan and Capcom about, what this is and, how it's going to kind of play out for the player's experience. Because in that, environment, we're looking at a lot of the technicality of players' experience as we record, which is something that's super unique to video games.
Yeah, it's true. You get to get that direct feedback from what would probably be acceptable as far as the audience. In this case, the gamer, the player. What are they mindset they're gonna be in that during the situation, and then they could direct you to be like, hey, this is what's gonna happen. This is what you're looking at. Maybe if they have a picture, this is the kind of reaction we think the gamer's gonna have. Give us something like that.
Right, totally. Is it also after she just got super, super hurt or like
Sure,
battered around, or is she feeling good because she just ate some herbs and came from a safe room or whatever? That dictates kind of the narrative flow as well.
Yeah.
And makes it feel more like a movie, again, back to just like creating that naturalistic, exciting, action-packed experience.
Right. So speaking of dialogue and your lines, was there any lines that you specifically really remember and hold on to that you really liked?
Oh my goodness, so many. She has so many good quips. Like
She
I
does.
know she's just got so many. I know some of the ones that people have been laughing about is bitch can't even swim. Nemesis gets like tossed in the
I saw the
exactly,
I saw the meme on
water.
that. The meme was
That was
beautiful.
super fun. And then I enjoyed bringing some credit. Her famous stars line is actually in the game, not where it was in the original, but it is in the game, and so we had fun just like doing a bunch of different versions of, you want stars? I'll give you stars.
Funny thing, actually, it was a funny thing about that one. When she says that in the game, you're actually in motion, like moving her. So I didn't realize it because I was listening to her talk. And Nemesis just like sucker punched me, so I didn't hear the line.
I heard that happened.
Yeah, so like when I first like beat the game and I didn't hear it at the end, I was like, did they leave it out or did I forget it? And then I found out it was because I got sucker punched.
Yeah,
totally. It's a little cookie for those that don't get smacked.
Those
Congratulations, you get this little nostalgia cookie. You didn't get hit.
I love it. That's awesome. So you said that you were allowed to improvise some of the quips and comebacks that she has and things like that. You guys did play with the character throughout recording. How much of you did you put into the character? Like, what are we seeing of Jill that's Nicole?
I mean, that's a really interesting question. I suppose there's no way to really get Nicole away from Jill in this iteration because it is just me reacting how I would with awesome direction in kind of this specified world. The script was really strong, so we mostly played off of what was already there. Mm-hmm. I can't say I'm as amazing and badass as Jill, but I can strive to be. I'm definitely a lot less cool. But we try. So how much of it is me? Well, I'm a pretty silly person in general. I really enjoy the sarcastic humor. I enjoy making fun of myself and kind of what's happening around me. And also when I play the game, I do a lot of just making fun of myself and responding to creatures.
Oh, hello. So nice of you to stop by.
You need to start like a Twitch or YouTube channel.
I started streaming on Twitch just like last week.
Oh, good. Then I guess we need to know your Twitch page there so we can set up where to follow you.
Yeah, it's Nicole Tompkins at Nikki Lee Tompkins. That's my social media handle: Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. So I started playing Animal Crossing on Twitch while I was here in quarantine, and there's a possibility, a pretty good possibility. I may get some Resident Evil action up on the on the stream.
Excellent.
I don't think so. You're playing Animal Crossing. That's gonna take your life. Like I have so many friends who are playing Animal Crossing and have not stopped.
Jeez.
Yes, thankfully I have a little self-control because I also have a lot to do. But
Yeah.
admittedly, many hours have been going. My house just was expanded. I'm only like $190,000 in debt to Tom Nook. Screw that guy. And I'm nailing it.
Yeah. Life goes on. Got things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I would definitely look forward. So everybody, if you guys, we have our Twitch. Nicole has a Twitch. Go follow Nicole if you're following us. If you follow Twitch, if you don't follow Twitch, then go follow Twitch and follow Nicole. There you go.
Thanks, guys. Come hang out, play.
Yes, definitely.
I'm pretty ridiculous when I stream, and a noob in some ways with buttons. Just give me a little bit of credit. I always press the wrong button, no matter how many times I've played a game. It's fine.
I kind of want to circle back to the mocap. We talked about the physicality of it, of Neil, dragging you, throwing you, doing all that good stuff. And we've seen the cutscenes that Jill takes a beating. She gets blown up. She gets thrown around. She really goes through a lot in her time period there. What was that like for you doing the motion capture? Was that still, were you being thrown around? And I know you said Neil dragged you. And how rough was that?
Piece of cake. No, there is definitely a ton of action, and I will give a lot of credit to the professional team and the animators that also make everything look super badass. I did a ton of stuff. I got thrown around a lot. I got bruised. We had some amazing wirework professionals who did some crazy wirework stuff as well that we aren't trained to do.
Right.
To kind of come together to create the final action-packed masterpiece that you have. So yes, did I come out with a couple bruises? Only because you can't not do any sort of horror survival game and not at least come out with a victory bruise.
Victory bruise, I like that.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely. That you're doing Twitch. I was checking out your Twitter once your name was released and everything to see how everybody was reacting. And it seems like the fan reaction has been pretty positive. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I have had so many kind comments from people. I've had such a blast kind of reaching out. I'm such a nerd too, so everyone's like, this is amazing, and I'm like, I think so too! So I've just had a lot of trying to respond to as many people as possible and be like, thanks, man! Because people seemed stoked, and I feed off of that. It's just so fun to be excited and nerd out, and we're all in freaking quarantine. Eventually I'll hopefully get to make it to some cons and stuff and get to hang out in person and nerd out.
Oh, for sure. Hopefully with ours, if we end up in another con next year, depending on how things go, hopefully we can bring you out there for it. Be one of our guests to come out and do a panel with us. We had Nick.
That'd be super sweet. I'd love that.
Nick Apostolides came out with us in January to PAX South. We had a blast. Spent the weekend together, hung out, had some barbecue, did our panel. And I think that's something we'd like to bring in more often. If we go to more panels or do more panels, more conventions, we'd like to bring the guests with us. We'd definitely love to bring you out.
Heck yeah. That sounds great.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that's great because Nick brought, because I'm sure you might have seen that Nick did his Leon cosplays and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And he, I was the one who did the photography for that.
Oh, I love it. That's super sweet.
The one where he was with the girl who's Ada. That's a good friend of mine. She's Texan and everything, so she was going to the con, and I told Nick, I was like, yeah, Nick, I got a person for you who's gonna do Ada, and he's like, oh, no way, we gotta do this because Nick was dying to shoot with it because we're both Boston guys.
Oh, super sweet. Oh, fun. That's great.
Yeah, so he was just all like, oh, I gotta shoot with you guys. You gotta let me shoot, and I was like, yeah, we'll totally do it.
Love that. I'm a photographer and a Shutterbug lover, so I love
awesome.
the awesome
yeah.
shoots and stuff like that. Yeah, totally. I'm super into photography and fun shoots. You'll see on my Instagram. I do lots of fun photos in cool places. As far as my Jill cosplay, you know, so far I've got my amazing Jill Valentine necklace, and I have like the original. I auditioned in this like blue tank top when I first auditioned, and I've still got the tank. But I was like, this was my Jill tank.
My Jill tank, yeah.
But I don't have the full get up together yet. I'm gonna have to work on that so I can, you know, look the part.
I think when you go out to conventions, if you bring a cosplay out, the people are going to love it. I know they really loved what Nick did, and they really like it when the actors, you know, take some pride in their characters and really want to embrace the fans and live in that character for them for a little bit. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, heck yeah. That's super fun. I'm an actor. I love to dress up. I go to all the Renaissance fairs.
Me too.
my world, my closet is full of random stuff that I'm just stoked to have an excuse to wear.
That's perfect. Well, you're in the right place.
It was actually funny you talking about that and like, you know, meeting the fans and stuff, because when we were at PAX South, you know, a lot of people were coming up because like me and Nick and my friend Nicole, who was the ADA, we're just, you know, we're waiting and everything like that. We're waiting to, you know, like go to a shoot and stuff. We're waiting for people to come back to us. And so like fans of Resident Evil were coming up and they saw Nick as Leon and they're like, oh yeah, can we get a shot? I was like, oh yeah, go for it. It's like, Nick, okay. Like,
yeah, because cosplay looks
like,
legit,
you know,
so.
Yeah, so like I was just like, yeah, you guys know that's Leon Kennedy, right? And they go, yeah, that's why I want a photo with him. I was like, no, that's the actor / motion capture artist for him. And they're all like, their jaws are going through the floor, and Nick's just got this smile on his face and everything. Yeah.
It's just a wonderful experience for them and you know.
Totally. That's so
once
fun.
you tell them that you're the actor or the actress doing it, like it's just like it's like a kid on Christmas morning when they find that out. It's hilarious.
Oh man, that just makes me smile.
Have you done any conventions before or been to them since you're kind of into the geek world with this?
Totally. Yeah,
So, yeah.
I've been down to Comic-Con. I'm in Los Angeles, so I get to go to the cool, you know, LA area based ones. I've gone down to Comic-Con a couple times, and WonderCon happens here as well. I haven't traveled to cons outside of California yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hopefully Capcom, I don't remember who Jolene, Nick, and Stephanie worked with, but I don't know if that was from Capcom or another agency, but there are agencies that will kind of help you get into the con circuit.
Yeah. I'm definitely open to it and looking forward to it. Right now we're all just stuck in quarantine, so we're gonna hang out at home for a minute.
I think we're all just really wishing we could go do these things again.
Yeah, we all want to be at the cons.
It's kind of sad. I know everybody's miserable sitting at home right now if you're not out there doing your essential jobs, and thank you if you are. But
seriously, you guys are the heroes.
Yeah. At least we've got some good content with games coming out, and this is perfect timing because you know everybody's at home. We're going to roll out all of our interviews. We're going to roll out our gameplay. It gives a chance for everybody kind of really and soak up Resident Evil 3. So
yeah, hey, you know what? If you want to forget about the coronavirus, just immerse yourself in the T-virus.
Yeah, exactly. Just swap them out. So speaking of conventions and stuff, have you been on the other side of the table as a guest or just going or as a attendee or as a guest, like a invited person?
I have not done much. I've worked with Nancy Cartwright for many years, who's the voice of Bart Simpson. So I've gone down to Comic-Con with her, like on her team and stuff like that.
Okay,
so
cool.
I've gotten some behind the scenes like fun because she was such a mentor and a role model to me in the voiceover world.
She's incredible. I mean,
so
that's our
I got
childhood.
to enjoy that for sure. She's fantastic.
Yeah, she really is.
And so I've done that, but I haven't done any like major panels yet. But I'm looking forward to it in the coming bit because I have a feeling we will have an opportunity to be stoked on Jill Valentine for a minute.
Yeah, excellent. Speaking of Jill for a minute, they're doing a lot of remakes and stuff, but they're still progressing the series with Resident Evil 8 coming down the road. And then Jill has been through other entries with 5. She's had her side games like Revelations. There's a lot of possibilities for Jill to show up again. Are you looking forward to hopefully coming back and reprising your character now?
I would never say no to getting to bring Jill Valentine to life. I have little to absolutely no control over what Capcom's up to, and it's just as much of a mystery and a secret to me as it is to everyone else.
Yeah.
So of course I would bring Jill back in a heartbeat to anything that they want me for. But they're the masterminds of an amazing franchise, so we'll see what they have next.
Yeah, definitely. Out of your other body of work, the rest of your career outside of Resident Evil, is there another project you work on that you think holds the highest for you that you're really, really proud of? I mean, obviously you're proud of everything, but which one do you think is like, this is some of my best work so far?
Totally. Oh, thanks. That's really sweet. That's a nice question. Well, I had a really fun, it's a specific kind of movie, but I had an amazing film called Antrim, the deadliest film ever made. That is me performing as one of the leads in that, and it's a live action movie. And I really, really loved the experience of filming it. And for those that like really kind of like offbeat psycho thriller sort of stuff, it's a very unique experience, and it's kind of playful and has a very quirky character to it. So I really enjoyed working on that because the creatives behind it were just brilliant, and I would totally work with them again. And then otherwise, video game world, like there was nothing like getting to jump right in super early. It was my first game to Middle Earth: Shadow of War, because I got to work with Troy Baker and Travis
yes.
Willingham, Laura Bailey, just like all of the greats in our motion capture world. So I was very lucky to just meet some super amazing people and get to learn about it from that crew, which is not a bad introduction into getting to make video games and not just play them.
Yeah, I say if you have a cast you have to work with when entering that world of voice acting in video games, that's probably the best cast you can get right there.
It's not too painful to have Troy Baker as your director.
I know.
Lead.
I can imagine. Troy's amazing. That guy, he's super talented. I love his work. Looking forward to The Last of Us 2.
Oh yeah, we all are. He's such a cool dude.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have anything coming up that you want to kind of promote and put out there? Let everybody be looking for it?
I would love to, but all of my projects are currently under wraps.
Oh, okay.
So I do have some fun stuff coming up, but you'll just have to follow me to keep in touch about when those things announce and release. Otherwise, come hang out on social media. I have a blast talking to everyone, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at Nikki Lee Tompkins.
Nikki Lee Tompkins. Which one do you think is the most popular for you? Which one do you use the most?
Oh, probably Instagram or Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, we like to kind of push everybody in one direction so that way they get the most reaction with you, I guess, back and forth. But go follow them. Go follow Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram or Twitter are pretty equal. Yeah, and Twitch. Yeah, Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, I do a lot of stories, so I love to like talk to people through there if you want to just see me live being a goofball. And then Twitter otherwise is a blast because I just love to respond to everyone. So I'm pretty active on both. Whatever your preferred platform, come hang out.
Yep, and we will have her social media links posted in the description for everybody who's on YouTube right now. One more time, Nikki, what was it?
It's at Nikki Lee Tompkins.
Nikki Lee, Niki, right?
NIKILEETOMPKINS. And I think you can also just search my name, Nicole Tompkins, and I'll pop up.
Perfect.
Just gonna say, I was going through your Instagram too. Like your photography is really good.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, like I love the one the Christmas bunnies.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
that's a great shot with the lighting in there, and the fact that you got like the rabbits to sit still like that too. That's good.
No, they're babies. I have bunnies. Yeah, thanks. That mostly it's pictures of me and what I'm up to, and I have another page full of portraits of other people. I'll send you a link.
Oh, perfect. Tony, actually, before we wrap this up, the Resident Evil 3 is your baby, and that's your game. That's the one you love the most out of the whole franchise. You probably put the most hours into than anybody else on the team. What's your take on Nicole for Jill?
I mean, I got to be honest. Like, she continues a legacy that a lot of the other voice actresses, like Michelle Ruff and Patricia Jai-Lee, Carrie Walgren. I think I'm missing somebody else too. Oh yeah, Heidi Anderson as well. Tara Platt. Like they all, and Catherine Disher, of course.
Yeah, Catherine Disher.
You all like brought the character to life, and whether it's the writers or the actors, you all nailed it. And what Jill is, I think. Pretty much, I honestly think, Nicole, like you are probably the best rendition of her because I feel that like you guys, like acting in games has evolved so much since the other roles, and I think you've just really nailed the core essential of what Jill Valentine is supposed to be.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. She means a lot and a lot of different things to so many people. So it's such a pleasure to have a true fan say that and appreciate that. And yeah, absolutely. I think all of the past iterations were super awesome for who she was in her time. And it's very cool to see this version of her come to life. As you said, the acting and what we expect from games is shifting and changing and constantly, becoming more natural and real in so many ways. So it's fantastic to have another badass female lead come to 2020 and just rock it in a way that a lot of people seem to be super stoked about. So I super appreciate that.
I'm really excited to see where they take her in the future entries, just because I love the way you guys portrayed her in this version. I feel like she developed more in a character for me, because it's been so long since I've seen her, and in the other entries she was still a character, but I feel like you gave her more personality this time, and I really like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. She's a real person, and I think that's what shows up.
Yeah. So do you have any closing thoughts for the fans of Resident Evil, just in general, the reception,
Man,
the game?
just a big thank you for all of the positive comments and interactions, and being so stoked and excited to sit down and jump back into Raccoon City. It's been such a pleasure to be welcomed into the Resident Evil family. So thank you so much for that, and keep rocking on, keep running, and don't get caught.
Don't get caught. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on here. This is a blast talking to you. We love the character. We love what you do with her. We love the game. And I want to say thank you again, and really, really liked having you on here. It was awesome.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been such a pleasure.
Excellent. All right, guys, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, make sure you like and subscribe. Go follow Nicole on her social media. Go check out her Twitch streams. Show her some love and support from the RE community. And we will see you here next time on the Residents of Evil.
Alright guys, that's going to be it. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, please leave a like and subscribe for more interviews with the cast of Resident Evil 3. This episode of the ROE Podcast was brought to you by our patrons. Our Master of Unlocking patrons are ProXY One Creations, Trent Overton, Devon L, Dusseau, Christopher Sedrick, Eddie Jr., Juril Moone, Iron Pear Studios, and Bailey Ritter. If you guys would like to help support the channel, head over to patreon.com/ROE Network. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you back at the Residents of Evil.